3 things Xavier Romano noticed about the bride on the steps. She was bleeding, she was alone, and she was 20 minutes away from becoming someone else's problem. He should have kept walking. The bride was crying outside the wedding hall like no one inside had noticed she was missing. Xavier Romano watched her from the shadow of his town car, one hand resting against the cold metal of the door handle. He had come for business, a marriage alliance loosely threaded to his empire, the kind of arrangement that required presence but not participation. Inside, violins swelled, champagne clinked, vows would be exchanged soon. Outside, a woman was breaking. She sat on the stone steps leading to the venue's entrance, her wedding gown pooling around her like spilled milk. The veil had slipped down her back, caught on one shoulder. Her bouquet lay beside her, white roses crushed and browning at the edges. Mascara carved black rivers down her cheeks, but her spine remained straight. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers trembling just enough to betray her. Xavier should have walked past her. He did not. Something in her stillness held him. She was not hysterical. She was not performing. This was private devastation made public by accident, and she wore it with the kind of dignity that came from practice. He moved toward her, his shoes silent on the pavement. She did not look up until his shadow fell across her. "You shouldn't be alone," Xavier said. Her head lifted. Red-rimmed eyes met his. They were green, he noticed, the kind of green that looked gray in certain light. "Neither should you," she said. Her voice was steady, controlled. It did not match the tears. Xavier studied her. The dress was expensive, but not extravagant. Her jewelry was minimal. No engagement ring visible, though a pale band of skin on her left ring finger suggested one had been removed recently. Her knuckles were bruised, faint yellow and purple blooms that spoke of impact. She had hit something, or someone had held her too tightly. "The ceremony's about to start," Xavier said. "I know." "You're the bride." "I know that too." She picked up the bouquet, fingers closing around the stems. The thorns bit into her palm. She did not flinch. Xavier crouched in front of her, bringing himself to her eye level. Up close he saw more. A split in her bottom lip, barely healed. A faint bruise along her jaw, expertly concealed with makeup that had since smeared. She had been struck. Recently. Carefully. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Summer." "Summer," he repeated, tasting it. "Who did this to you?" "Does it matter?" "It will." She laughed, a brittle sound. "You don't know me." "No," Xavier agreed, "but I know what debt looks like." Her expression shifted. Something shuddered behind her eyes. "You should go inside," she said. "You'll miss the show." "I don't think there's going to be one." Summer's gaze sharpened. "What do you mean?" Xavier did not answer. He was listening. Footsteps behind them, rapid and uneven. A man's voice, loud and irritated. "Summer, what the hell are you doing out here?" The groom appeared at the top of the steps, tuxedo slightly disheveled, face flushed. He was younger than Xavier expected, mid-30s, soft around the edges despite the tailored suit, money without discipline, power without control. Summer's entire body tensed. The groom descended toward them, his focus entirely on her. "Everyone's waiting. You're embarrassing me." "I needed air," Summer said quietly. "You need to get inside." He reached for her arm. Xavier stood. The movement was minimal, but it placed him between Summer and the approaching man. The groom stopped mid-step, recognition flickering across his features. "Romano," he said, the name half question, half warning. Xavier said nothing. The silence stretched. The groom's hand fell to his side. He looked at Summer, then back at Xavier, calculating odds he could not win. "This doesn't concern you," the groom said, though his voice had lost its edge. "Doesn't it?" "She's my fiancée." "She's sitting on the steps crying," Xavier said. "That concerns me." The groom's jaw tightened. "We had a disagreement." "It's handled." Xavier glanced down at Summer. She had not moved, had not spoken. Her gaze was fixed on the crushed bouquet in her hands. "Is it handled?" Xavier asked her. She looked up at him. Something passed between them, unspoken and immediate, a recognition of something he could not yet name. "No," she said softly. The groom took a step forward. "Summer." "Touch her," Xavier said, his voice unchanged, "and you'll need a surgeon to reattach your hand." The threat landed with surgical precision. The groom froze. Around them, the night had gone still. No music from inside, no voices, just the three of them on the steps, and the inevitability of what came next. The groom swallowed. "You're making a mistake." "I rarely do." "She's contracted. The marriage settles a debt. If she doesn't—" "I know what debts look like," Xavier interrupted. "I also know what they cost, and I'm telling you now, this one just became mine." Summer's head snapped toward him. "What?" Xavier did not look at her. He kept his gaze on the groom, who had gone pale. "You can't," the groom said. "The families will answer to me if they object." The groom opened his mouth, closed it. He looked at Summer one last time, something ugly crossing his face. Then he turned and walked back up the steps, disappearing into the golden light of the hall. Xavier waited until the door closed. Then he turned to Summer. She was staring at him, bouquet forgotten. "What did you just do?" she whispered. Interrupted. "I didn't ask you to—" "No," Xavier agreed. "You didn't." He extended his hand. "You're coming with me." Summer looked at his hand, at the open car door behind him, at the wedding hall where her groom had just disappeared. She should refuse, should demand answers, should fight. Instead, she placed her hand in his. Xavier's fingers closed around hers, warm and certain. He pulled her to her feet, steadying her when the dress tangled around her legs. Up close, he could see the rapid pulse at her throat, the barely contained tremor in her shoulders. "I don't know you," she said. "You will." He guided her toward the car. His driver opened the rear door without being asked. Summer hesitated at the threshold, one hand on the frame. "What happens now?" she asked. Xavier looked at her, really looked. She was terrified and trying not to show it, exhausted but still standing, breakable but not broken. "Now," he said quietly, "you stop belonging to men who hurt you." Something cracked in her expression. Not relief, not gratitude, something raw. She climbed into the car. Xavier followed, closing the door behind them. The engine started. The wedding hall grew smaller in the rear window. Summer sat beside him, wedding dress spilling across the leather seat, veil trailing like a ghost. "I was supposed to marry him in 20 minutes, she said. "You were. What will he do when he realizes I'm gone?" Xavier's gaze remained forward. "Nothing." "How can you be sure?" He turned to her then, and in the dim light of the car, she saw what had made the groom back down. Not anger, not violence, something colder, certainty. "Because men like him understand one language," Xavier said, "and I speak it fluently." Summer's breath caught. She should be afraid of him, every instinct screamed it. But fear and safety had become confused in her somewhere along the way, and right now, in this car, she felt safer than she had in months. "Who are you?" she asked. Xavier's expression did not change. "Someone who just became very interested in keeping you alive." The car turned onto the main road. Behind them, the wedding hall blazed with light and music, and a celebration that would continue without its bride. Summer leaned back against the seat, closing her eyes. "I didn't even want to marry him," she whispered. "I know." Her eyes opened. "How?" Xavier looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something shift in his expression. Not softness, not pity, something more dangerous. Interest. "Because," he said, "no one sits outside their own wedding unless they've run out of ways to say no." Summer's heart hammered against her ribs. She should ask where they were going, should demand to be taken somewhere safe, somewhere that was not in a car with a stranger whose name made grown men retreat. But she did not, because safety had become subjective, and choice had been stolen so many times that she barely recognized it when offered. "Where are we going?" she asked instead. Xavier's gaze returned to the window. Somewhere they won't find you. And then? His silence stretched too long. When he finally answered, his voice was quiet, final, and utterly without mercy. Then I decide what happens to the men who tried to sell you. The car moved through the city like a blade through water, smooth, silent, inevitable. Summer sat rigid in the back seat, wedding dress spilling across leather that probably cost more than her last apartment. The veil had finally slipped free, pooling at her feet like a discarded skin. She could still feel Xavier beside her, close enough that the heat from his body reached her through layers of silk and tulle, but he had not touched her since helping her into the car. He had not spoken either. She counted streetlights. 11, 15, 23. The city thinned around them, high-rises giving way to tree-lined streets, then gated estates she had only seen in magazines. The kind of wealth that did not advertise itself. "Where are we going?" she asked finally. "Somewhere safe." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you need right now." Summer's jaw tightened. She turned to look at him. Xavier sat with his hands folded in his lap, posture relaxed but not casual. Everything about him suggested control held on a loose leash. His profile was sharp in the passing streetlights. Strong jaw, straight nose, dark eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "I didn't ask you to do this," she said. "No, you didn't." "Then why did you?" Xavier's gaze remained forward. "Because you were about to make a choice you couldn't survive." "Maybe I would have." "You wouldn't have." The certainty in his voice made her chest tighten. He spoke like someone who had seen the outcome, calculated the variables, and found her survival probability unacceptable. The car turned through iron gates that opened without prompting. A long driveway lined with bare trees. Then a house, no, an estate, appeared. Modern architecture softened by age, all glass and stone and deliberate shadows. Lights burned in several windows, but the building felt empty somehow. Waiting. The driver stopped at the main entrance. Xavier's door opened before Summer could process that someone had been waiting outside. "Sir!" A man in dark clothing, no uniform, just expensive fabric and controlled movement. Security, Summer realized, not staff. Xavier stepped out. "Prepare the east wing. Bring Lucia." "Already done." Xavier turned back to the car, extending his hand toward Summer. She looked at it, at him, at the house behind him that probably had more locked doors than exits. She took his hand anyway. Her legs trembled when she stood, partly from cold, partly from delayed shock. The wedding dress caught on the car door. Xavier freed it without comment, one hand steadying her elbow while she found her balance. The contact was brief, impersonal, and somehow more intimate than anything her former fiancé, had ever done. "This way," Xavier said. The interior was exactly what she expected and nothing like it. Clean lines, minimal furniture, art that probably cost more than the wedding that hadn't happened. But there was something lived in about it, too. A book, left open on a side table. Coffee cup, still half full, abandoned beside it. Someone's life, not a showroom. They climbed stairs. Marble, she thought, but darker than usual. Obsidian, maybe. Her heels clicked against stone, the sound too loud in the silence. Xavier opened a door. The room beyond was larger than her entire previous apartment. King bed with crisp white linens, sitting area with low furniture positioned around a fireplace, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking grounds she could barely see in the darkness, and attached to it, through an open door, a bathroom that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel. "You'll stay here tonight," Xavier said. Not a question. Summer stepped inside. The door closed behind her, and for a moment panic spiked. She spun, but Xavier remained in the doorway, not crossing the threshold. "There are clothes in the closet," he continued. "Bathroom is stocked. Lucia will bring food shortly." "Who's Lucia?" "Someone you can trust." "I don't know her." "You don't know me either." Summer's fingers found the zipper at her side, the one she'd struggled with alone in a hotel room 6 hours ago. That's exactly my point. Xavier's gaze tracked the movement. Not predatory. Clinical. Like he was cataloging another detail to add to whatever mental file he'd already started on her. "Do you need help?" he asked. "No." "Are you certain?" She was not. The dress had required 2 people to get her into it, and she suspected getting out would be worse. But accepting help meant letting him closer, and she was not ready for that. "I'll manage," she said. Xavier nodded once. "Lock the door after I leave. Don't open it for anyone except Lucia. She'll knock 3 times, pause, then twice more." "You're serious?" "Always." He started to turn away. "Wait." Summer's voice caught. "What happens tomorrow?" Xavier paused in the doorway. "We talk." "About what?" "About who arranged your marriage, what debt it was meant to settle, and what I need to do to make sure you never have to wear another man's ring." Summer's throat tightened. "You can't just—" "I can." He looked back at her, and in the low light, his expression was unreadable. "And I will. The only question is whether you want to be part of that conversation, or if you'd prefer I handle it alone." "Handle it," she repeated. "You mean—" "I mean what I said earlier. Men like your groom understand one language. I'm fluent." Her pulse hammered. "I don't want anyone hurt because of me." "They won't be hurt because of you," Xavier said quietly. "They'll be hurt because they tried to sell you like property. There's a difference." Summer opened her mouth, closed it. What could she say to that? "Thank you for the planned violence. Please don't commit crimes on my behalf." "Get some rest," Xavier said. "We'll talk in the morning." "I won't be able to sleep." "Try anyway." He pulled the door closed behind him. The lock engaged with a soft click. Summer stood alone in the room, wedding dress suddenly unbearably heavy. She could hear her own breathing, too fast, too shallow. Panic or relief, she could not tell which. She moved to the window. The grounds stretched into darkness, punctuated by security lights at regular intervals. A perimeter, a boundary, protection or prison, depending on perspective. Behind her, 3 knocks. Pause, 2 more. Summer turned. "Come in." The door opened. A woman entered, early 50s, gray hair pulled back severely, carrying a tray. She wore dark slacks and a simple sweater, elegant but practical. Her eyes found Summer and held, assessment happening in seconds. "I'm Lucia," she said, setting the tray on the sitting room table. "I manage the household." "Summer." "I know." Lucia straightened. "Mr. Romano asked me to bring food. You should eat something." Summer glanced at the tray. Soup, bread, cheese, fruit. Simple food, but beautifully arranged. Her stomach turned. "I'm not hungry." "You will be. It'll stay warm for a while." Lucia moved toward the closet, opening it to reveal clothing Summer definitely had not provided. "These should fit. I estimated sizes." "How did you—" Mr. Romano called ahead. Summer's chest tightened. "When?" "While you were en route." So he had been planning this, not improvising. This room, these clothes, this carefully arranged safety, it had been decided before the car had even left the wedding venue. "Did he tell you what happened?" Summer asked. Lucia's expression did not change. "He told me you needed a place to stay. The rest is not my concern." "Does that happen often? Women appearing at midnight?" "No." The single word carried weight. This was unusual. She was unusual. "There's a lock on the bedroom door," Lucia continued, "and on the bathroom. Mr. Romano will not enter without permission." "You say that like it needs to be said." "In my experience," Lucia said carefully, "it's better to say things clearly than assume they're understood." Summer studied the older woman. She had the kind of face that revealed nothing and somehow communicated everything. This was someone who had seen things, done things, survived things. "Can I trust him?" Summer asked quietly. Lucia was silent for a long moment. Mr. Romano is many things. But he does not lie, and he keeps his word. If he says you're safe here, you are. And if I want to leave, then you leave. Lucia moved toward the door. Though I suspect you have nowhere to go. Not tonight. She was right. Summer's apartment, if it still was hers, was 3 states away. Her phone was dead, left in the bridal suite at the venue. Her purse, her identification, everything was back in a building she could never return to. She had escaped with nothing but a wedding dress and a stranger's word that she would survive the night. Lucia paused at the threshold. Get some rest, Summer. Things often look different in daylight. The door closed softly. Summer was alone again. She moved mechanically, removed her shoes, found the zipper. It took 15 minutes and near tears, but she managed. The dress pooled at her feet, and she stepped out of it, leaving it where it fell like a shed skin. In the closet, she found soft cotton, dark colors, everything in her size. She pulled on pants and a sweater, then moved to the bathroom, scrubbed her face clean. Her reflection was a stranger, eyes too wide, lips still swollen from crying, bruise on her jaw now visible without concealer. She looked exactly like what she was. Prey that had been caught and released, only to be caught again by something that had not yet decided what to do with her. Summer returned to the bedroom, locked the door, climbed into bed without eating. The sheets smelled clean, expensive, safe. She closed her eyes. Sleep would not come. Behind her eyelids, she saw Xavier's face, heard his voice, remembered the way the groom had retreated the moment he recognized the man on the steps. Who was Xavier Romano? And what had she just agreed to by taking his hand? Somewhere in the house, a door opened, closed. Footsteps moved through the building below her, steady and purposeful. Xavier, she thought, still awake, still working, still deciding what to do with the bride he had stolen. Summer pulled the blanket closer, and despite herself, despite everything, began to drift. She woke to her phone ringing. No, not ringing. That was impossible. Her phone was dead, left behind, but the sound continued. Loud, insistent, close. Summer's eyes opened. Darkness, unfamiliar room, memory flooded back. The sound was not her phone, it was someone else's, and it was coming from inside the room. On the nightstand, a phone she had not noticed before glowed with an incoming call. Unknown number. The screen lit the darkness, and in that light, Summer saw something else. A note, written in careful handwriting, placed beside the phone while she slept. It read, "Answer it. He needs to hear your voice." Summer's blood went cold. She reached for the phone with trembling fingers, and the moment she touched it, she understood. This was not safety. This was the beginning of something else entirely. Summer stared at the glowing phone, the note's words burning into her vision. "Answer it. He needs to hear your voice." Her hand hovered over the device. 3 rings. 4. The screen's light carved shadows across the unfamiliar room, turning everything sharp and threatening. 5 rings. She answered. Silence greeted her. Not empty silence, the kind filled with breathing, with presence, with someone waiting on the other end. "Hello?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. More silence. Then, faint and distant, a sound, movement, fabric rustling, and beneath it, barely audible, crying. Summer's chest tightened. "Who is this?" The line went dead. She sat frozen, phone still pressed to her ear, pulse hammering against her throat. The note remained on the nightstand, innocent and terrible in equal measure. A knock at the door. Not Lucia's pattern, just 3 sharp raps. "Summer." Xavier's voice, calm through the wood. "Open the door." She should be terrified, should demand answers through the barrier. Instead, she found herself moving, unlocking, pulling the door open. Xavier stood in the hallway, fully dressed despite the hour. His shirt sleeves were rolled to his elbows, and there was something different about his expression, a sharpness that had not been there before. "The phone," he said. Summer held it up. "Someone called. They didn't speak. I heard—" She stopped. "Did you put this here?" "Yes." "While I was sleeping?" "Yes." No apology, no excuse. Simple confirmation. "Why?" she asked. Xavier's gaze moved past her, scanning the room with practiced efficiency. "Because I needed to know if they would try to contact you." "They." "Your former fiancé's family." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The space immediately felt smaller. "Did they say anything?" "No, just breathing. And crying, I think. Someone crying." Xavier's jaw tightened, the only visible reaction. He took the phone from her hand, checking the call log with swift movements. "Unknown number. Blocked. They used a burner." "Who was crying?" He did not answer immediately. His attention remained on the phone, fingers moving across the screen. Then he looked at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "Your sister," he said quietly. Summer's legs went weak. "I don't have a sister." "Yes, you do. Half-sister, Abigail. 16 years old, lives with your father's second family in Connecticut." The room tilted. "How do you—" "I know everything about you, Summer." Xavier set the phone on the dresser. "Your father's debts, your mother's death, the trust fund that never materialized, every address you've lived at, every job you've held, every friend you've lost contact with over the past 3 years." She should be angry, should feel violated. Instead, she felt exposed, like he had stripped away layers she had not realized she was wearing. "You investigated me. The moment I saw you on those steps." "Why?" "Because people don't end up as payment for someone else's mistakes by accident. They're put there, and I needed to know who was holding the leash." Summer's hands curled into fists. "So you already knew. Before you even spoke to me, you knew what I was." "I knew what they made you," Xavier corrected. "Not what you are." "What's the difference?" He moved closer, eliminating the careful distance he had maintained until now. "The difference is choice. You chose to get in my car. You chose to stay in this room. You're choosing to stand here now instead of running." "Running where? You locked the gates." "They're not locked." Summer went still. "What?" "The gates, the doors. None of them are locked. You can leave anytime you want." Xavier's voice remained even, factual. "You haven't tried." Because she had assumed, had believed the illusion of captivity without testing it. "Why would you tell me that?" she asked. "Because I want you to understand something." He stopped a foot away from her. "You're not a prisoner here. You're protected. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Both involve staying where someone else wants you." "No." Xavier's gaze held hers. "One involves force. The other involves trust. I'm asking you to trust me." "I don't know you." "You know enough." She wanted to argue, wanted to list all the reasons trusting a man who investigated her, who had somehow acquired a sister she had never mentioned, who had stolen her from her own wedding was insane. But standing there, in the early morning darkness, wearing clothes he had provided in a room he had prepared, Summer realized something that terrified her more than any locked door. She did trust him, or at least, she trusted him more than anyone who had come before. "What about Abigail?" she asked quietly. "Why did they call from her phone?" Xavier's expression darkened. "To let you know they have leverage. To remind you that leaving has consequences." Summer's stomach dropped. "They wouldn't hurt her. She's a child." "They sold you to settle a debt. What makes you think they value her more?" The words hit like a physical blow. Summer sat heavily on the edge of the bed, legs finally giving out. "She doesn't know me. We've never met. My father, he left when I was 8. Started a new family, better family. Blood doesn't require acquaintance to be used as leverage." "So what do I do?" Xavier crouched in front of her, bringing himself to her eye level just as he had on the steps. Nothing. You do nothing. I handle this. I can't just— Yes, you can. His voice remained calm, but something beneath it had shifted. Something harder. This is what I do, Summer. I solve problems, and right now, you and your sister are problems that need solving. She's not a problem. She's a child. She's a tool they're using against you. That makes her part of the equation. Summer's eyes burned. I can't let them hurt her because of me. They won't. You can't promise that. Xavier's hand moved, not to touch her but to the mattress beside her, close enough to feel the heat of his palm. I can, and I am. No one will touch your sister. No one will touch you, not while I'm breathing. The certainty in his voice should have felt arrogant. Instead, it felt absolute. Why? Summer whispered. Why do you care? Xavier was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quieter, stripped of its usual controlled distance. Because I watched you sit on those steps, and I saw someone who had been taught that surrender was survival, and I decided that was unacceptable. Summer's breath caught. You don't even know me. I'm learning. The words hung between them, loaded with implications neither seemed ready to address. Xavier stood, putting distance between them again. Get some rest. When you wake up, we'll talk about next steps. What next steps? Finding out who made that call, where they're keeping your sister, and what it will cost them to threaten you. He moved toward the door. Xavier. He paused, hand on the handle. The wedding, Summer said. What happened after we left? His shoulders tensed, a micro-movement she almost missed. Your groom went back inside, told everyone you had gotten cold feet. That the wedding was postponed. That's it? For now? They'll look for me. Let them. Xavier opened the door. By the time they find you, it won't matter. Why not? He looked back at her, and in the dim light, his expression was unreadable. Because, he said quietly, by then you'll be untouchable. The door closed behind him. Summer sat in the darkness, mind racing. Her sister, a girl she had never met, now tangled in a mess that had nothing to do with her. And Xavier, a man she had known for hours, promising violence as casually as most people promised coffee. She should leave, should test those unlocked gates, should run as far and as fast as possible. Instead, she found herself moving to the dresser, finding the phone Xavier had left behind, staring at the unknown number from the call. On impulse, she opened the messaging app. I'm safe, she typed. Don't be scared. She hit send before she could reconsider. The response came immediately. 3 words that made her blood run cold. She says hi. Summer dropped the phone like it had burned her, because those words meant something specific and terrible. They had Abigail right now, not just access to her phone. They had her, and they wanted Summer to know it. She grabbed the phone, fingers shaking, and ran for the door. Threw it open. The hallway stretched in both directions, dark and empty. Xavier! Her voice cracked, movement at the far end. Xavier emerged from a doorway, already moving toward her. He must have seen something in her expression because his pace quickened. What happened? Summer held up the phone, hands trembling. They have her. They responded. Xavier took the phone, reading the message. His expression went completely still. Get dressed, he said. What? Get dressed. Jeans, comfortable shoes. You have 3 minutes. Where are we going? Xavier's gaze lifted from the phone to her face, and what she saw there was not anger or fear. It was something colder, certainty. To get your sister, he said, and to show them what happens when they threaten what's mine. Summer's heart stopped. Yours? Xavier's expression did not change, did not soften. You got in my car, he said quietly. You stayed in this house. You trusted me to protect you. That makes you mine, Summer. And I protect what's mine, absolutely. He turned, already moving toward the stairs. 3 minutes, he called back. Then we leave. Summer stood frozen in the doorway, the weight of his words settling over her like a brand. She was his. When had that happened? On the steps? In the car? In the moment she had chosen not to test those unlocked gates? Or had it been decided the second he saw her sitting alone in her wedding dress, quietly breaking? She did not know. What she did know was that she had 90 seconds left, and a 16-year-old girl was in danger because of her. Summer ran back into the room, grabbed jeans from the closet, and began to change. Behind her, through the open door, she heard Xavier's voice, low, calm, lethal. Mobilize the team. I want locations for everyone connected to the Castellano family. Start with the father, and someone bring me the file on the girl. A pause. No, Xavier said, voice dropping even lower. No police, no intermediaries. We do this ourselves. Another pause. Because, Xavier said, each word deliberate, they just declared war, and I always finish what someone else starts. The call ended. Summer pulled on her shoes, heart hammering. 90 seconds ago, she had been a rescued bride. Now she was something else entirely. A catalyst, a claimed thing, the reason blood was about to be spilled. She stepped into the hallway, dressed and ready, and found Xavier waiting at the top of the stairs. He looked at her once, assessing, and nodded. Let's go, he said. And Summer Logan, who had spent 27 years learning to be quiet, to submit, to survive by making herself smaller, followed a man she barely knew into the darkness to save a sister she had never met. Because somewhere between the wedding steps and this hallway, survival had stopped being enough. And Xavier Romano had given her something far more dangerous. Choice. They did not rescue Abigail that night. Summer sat in Xavier's study 3 hours past dawn, coffee gone cold in her hands, and listened to him dismantle her understanding of safety. The girl is not in immediate danger, Xavier said, standing at the window overlooking grounds now visible in morning light. They moved her twice in the last 6 hours. Professional precaution, not panic. How do you know that? Because I've been tracking her phone since the first message. Summer's fingers tightened around the cup. You can do that? I can do many things. Xavier turned from the window. He had not changed clothes, had not rested, but somehow looked more controlled than he had hours earlier. The question is what you're willing to let me do. Anything that gets her back safely. Anything? He moved to the desk, pressing a button that made a screen rise from the polished wood. Then you need to see this. The screen flickered to life. Security footage, black and white, time-stamped 3 hours ago. A house Summer did not recognize, a car pulling into the driveway, 2 men escorting a teenage girl inside, blonde, slight, wearing pajamas. Abigail. Summer's breath caught. Where is that? A property owned by a shell company registered to your father's business partner, Marcus Castellano. The man my fiancé worked for, owed money to. Same thing in their world. Xavier pressed another button. The footage changed. Interior now. Abigail sitting on a couch, phone in hand, crying. One of the men stood nearby. Not threatening, just present. They're not hurting her, yet. Yet, Summer repeated, the word tasting like ash. She's leverage. Damaged leverage is less effective. Xavier's tone remained clinical, detached. They want you to see her safe, want you to know that her continued safety depends on your choices. What choices? I'm here. I left the wedding. What more do they want? They want you to come back. Summer stood, coffee sloshing over the rim of the cup. That's insane. Why would I? Because the marriage wasn't about love or alliance. Xavier closed the distance between them, taking the cup from her shaking hands and setting it aside. It was about ownership. Your father sold a debt to Castellano 5 years ago. The terms included collateral. Me? You. His voice gentled slightly, though his expression remained unchanged. The marriage was the final transfer, legal documentation that you belonged to their organization. Once you signed those papers, they could use you however they wanted. Summer's legs went weak. Xavier's hand found her elbow, steady and sure, guiding her back to the chair. I didn't sign anything, she said. No, you left before the ceremony, which means the contract remains invalid, which means they still need you to make it legal. So they took my sister to force me back. Yes. Summer closed her eyes. The weight of it settled over her like a physical thing, years of manipulation crystallizing into this single, terrible moment. If I go back, she said slowly, if I sign whatever they want, they'll let her go? Probably. Probably. Xavier crouched in front of her, the same position he had taken on the wedding steps in her bedroom, each time bringing himself to her level. Summer, look at me. She opened her eyes. If you go back, Xavier said quietly, you disappear. Legally, physically, permanently. Girls like you, the ones used as collateral, they don't survive. Not really. You become a tool, a threat, a loose end that eventually needs tying up. But Abigail, I will get your sister back, but not by trading you for her. That's not a negotiation. That's assisted suicide. Then what do we do? Xavier stood, moving to the desk. He opened a drawer, withdrew a folder, and placed it in front of her. We changed the terms. Summer opened the folder. Documents, legal papers, property deeds, bank statements, and at the center, a contract with her name on it, the marriage agreement she had never signed, except now it bore her signature. What is this? She whispered. Insurance. Xavier leaned against the desk, watching her. I had my lawyers forge your signature this morning, filed it with the appropriate courts. As of 2 hours ago, you are legally married to your former fiancé. Summer's vision blurred. You did what? I made you worthless to them. How is making me married to him making me worthless? Because the contract specified ownership transfer upon marriage completion. Once signed, once filed, you became an asset of the Castellano organization. Xavier's voice remained steady, factual, which means you're no longer collateral for your father's debt. You're property they already own, and property that's already owned has no value in a negotiation. Summer stared at the papers, mind struggling to process. So they can't trade Abigail for me anymore? Correct. Which means they have no reason to keep her. Also correct. So they'll let her go. No. Xavier's tone shifted, something harder entering it. They'll kill her, because a witness who can identify them is now a liability instead of leverage. The world tilted. Summer gripped the edge of the desk. Then what was the point? Why did you? Because now they're forced to act tonight. Before they realize the contract was filed, before they understand that keeping your sister serves no purpose. Xavier moved to another screen, this one showing multiple camera feeds. They think they still have time, think they can wait you out. But we just started a timer they don't know is running. How does that help Abigail? Because I know exactly where she'll be and exactly when they'll move her. His finger traced one of the screens. They'll transfer her to a more secure location once they realize you're not responding to their threats. That transfer happens tonight at 11 p.m., and when it does, we'll be waiting. Summer pushed away from the desk, pacing. The study felt smaller suddenly, the walls closer. You planned this. All of it. From the moment you saw that message. Yes. You forged legal documents, filed false paperwork, committed fraud. Yes. And you didn't ask me. She turned to face him. You just decided. Xavier's expression did not change. Would you have agreed? I don't know. But that's not the point. Then what is? The point is, you made a choice about my life without consulting me. Her voice rose despite her efforts to control it. You signed my name to a marriage contract without permission. You declared me property of a criminal organization. I kept you alive." Xavier's voice cut through hers, not louder but somehow more absolute. "Every decision I made this morning was designed to keep you breathing long enough to see tomorrow. If you want to be angry about that, be angry. But don't pretend you had better options. I could have gone back, traded myself for her. You could have died. That was my choice to make. Not anymore." The words landed like a physical blow. Summer went still, really hearing what he had said, what he was saying. "What do you mean, not anymore?" she asked quietly. Xavier pushed away from the desk, closing the distance between them. "I mean, you got in my car, Summer. You stayed in my house. You let me put protection around you. You asked me to save your sister." He stopped close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "Every choice you made gave me permission to make the next choice for you. That's not how consent works, isn't it?" His voice dropped lower. "You knew what I was when you took my hand. Knew I was dangerous. Knew I operated outside laws that don't apply to men like me. You chose me anyway. I chose safety. You chose me." Xavier's hand moved, not touching her but close enough that she felt the heat of it near her face. "And now you're finding out what that costs." Summer's pulse hammered in her throat. "I can still leave." "Can you?" "You said the gates weren't locked." "They're not." Xavier's gaze held hers. "But you won't leave. Not while your sister is in danger, not while you need what I can do." His head tilted slightly. "So we're right back where we started. You needing protection, me providing it. The only difference is now you understand the shape of what that means. Control. Partnership. That's a pretty word for ownership." "No." Xavier's voice gentled slightly. "Ownership implies you have no say. But you do. You're choosing this. Every minute you stand here instead of running. Every second you don't tell me to stop. That's choice, Summer. It just happens to be the choice I want you to make. She should run. Should test those unlocked gates right now. Should prove him wrong. But he was not wrong. She would not leave. Not with Abigail still held. Not with Xavier as the only person willing to get her back. "What happens tonight?" Summer asked instead. "Tonight, we get your sister. And we show the Castellano family what happens when they threaten something that belongs to me." "I don't belong to you." Xavier's expression shifted, something flickering behind his eyes that might have been amusement, or might have been something darker. "Keep telling yourself that," he said quietly. He moved past her, heading for the door. "Wait." Summer turned. "What am I supposed to do until tonight?" Xavier paused at the threshold. "Stay here. Rest. Lucia will bring you food." "Stay here," she repeated. "In this house?" "Yes. With security I didn't ask for and gates I apparently can't walk through without you noticing." "Yes. That sounds a lot like captivity." Xavier looked back at her, and for the first time since she had met him, she saw something that might have been regret cross his features. "It does," he agreed. "But you'll find captivity is relative. And right now, this cage is the only thing keeping you alive." The door closed behind him. Summer stood alone in the study, surrounded by screens showing her sister in danger, legal documents bearing her forged signature, and the slowly crystallizing understanding of what she had agreed to. Not rescue, possession. She moved to the window Xavier had stood at earlier. The grounds stretched out, beautiful and still. And there, barely visible at the tree line, a figure in dark clothing, security, watching, always watching. Summer pressed her hand against the glass and felt the cold seep through. Behind her, one of the screens flickered. New footage, Abigail's location. The girl was sleeping now, curled on the couch, phone still clutched in one hand. Safe. For now. Because of choices Xavier had made without asking. Summer's reflection stared back at her from the window, ghost-like and insubstantial. She barely recognized herself. A sound made her turn. The door opening. Lucia entering with a tray. "Mr. Romano said you hadn't eaten," the older woman said, setting the food on the desk. "He notices everything." "Yes," Lucia straightened. "He does. Does that bother you? Working for someone who watches everything?" Lucia's expression remained neutral. "Better to work for someone who sees threats before they arrive than someone who notices after you're already bleeding." She moved toward the door. "Lucia," Summer's voice stopped her. "The gates, are they really unlocked?" The older woman turned back. "Yes. Has anyone ever left?" A pause. "No one who belonged here has ever wanted to." "And the ones who didn't belong?" Lucia's gaze was steady, unflinching. "They didn't make it to the gates." The door closed softly. Summer stood in the study, food cooling on the desk, screens glowing with evidence of danger and control in equal measure. She walked to the desk, picked up her phone, the one Xavier had placed in her room, the one she now understood had never really been hers. Opened the messages, typed carefully, "I'm coming for you. Stay safe." Hit send. The response came 30 seconds later, but this time it was not words. It was a photo. Abigail, still sleeping on the couch, and behind her, barely visible in the background, a man Summer recognized from the security footage, except now he was holding something, a syringe, and the timestamp was not from hours ago, it was from 30 seconds ago. They were watching, right now, waiting to see what Summer would do with the information. Her hand shook as she ran for the door, throwing it open, Xavier's name already forming on her lips. But the hallway was empty, and from somewhere deep in the house, she heard voices. Xavier's, calm and controlled, and someone else's, someone whose voice made her blood run cold, because she knew that voice, had heard it at the wedding, had heard it promise her father that everything would be taken care of. Marcus Castellano was in the house, and Xavier had not told her. Summer moved toward the voices on instinct, phone still clutched in her hand. The image of Abigail and the syringe burned into her vision. The hallway opened into a sitting room she had not seen before, darker than the rest of the house, all leather and wood and shadows that seemed deliberate. Xavier stood near the fireplace, posture relaxed, drink in hand, and across from him, seated like he belonged there, was Marcus Castellano. Older than she remembered, softer around the edges but harder in the eyes. He looked up when she entered, and something that might have been satisfaction crossed his features. "Summer." His voice was warm, familiar, utterly wrong. "You look well." She froze in the doorway. Xavier's gaze shifted to her, expression unreadable. "I thought you were resting. You didn't tell me he was here?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "No, I didn't." Marcus set his own drink down, leaning forward. "Please, sit. We're discussing your future." "My future isn't yours to discuss." "Actually," Marcus said, pulling a folder from his briefcase, "it very much is. Your father signed documents 5 years ago that make you legally my responsibility until certain debts are satisfied." Summer's hands curled into fists. "Those documents are void. I didn't consent. Consent wasn't required. You were collateral, not a contracting party." He opened the folder, sliding papers across the coffee table. "These are the terms your father agreed to. Room, board, education, all expenses covered. In exchange, you would fulfill certain obligations when called upon. Marriage to your associate. Among other things." The casual way he said it made her stomach turn. "I'm not property. The law disagrees." Marcus tapped the papers. "At least it did until this morning." Summer's gaze snapped to Xavier. He had not moved, had not changed expression. "The forged signature," she said quietly. "Not forged," Marcus corrected. "Filed, which makes it legally binding whether you remember signing it or not. Romano here was quite helpful in expediting the process." The room tilted. Summer looked at Xavier, really looked, searching for something in his expression that would tell her this was not what it seemed. She found nothing. "You worked with him," she whispered. "I worked for you." Xavier's tone remained even. "There's a difference." "How?" "You made me—" She stopped, unable to finish. "I made you legally worthless as leverage," Xavier said. "Which means Castellano no longer has use for your sister. Which means we can retrieve her without negotiation." Marcus smiled, thin and cold. "That's one interpretation. It's the only one that matters." "Is it?" Marcus stood, buttoning his jacket. "You filed fraudulent documents, Romano. That makes you complicit in breach of contract. The courts will reverse the filing once I provide evidence of forgery." "They won't." "You sound very certain." "I am." Xavier finally moved, setting his drink aside. "Because the signature wasn't forged. Summer signed those documents 3 days ago. You just weren't informed until this morning." Summer went cold. "That's not true." Xavier's gaze met hers, and something passed between them. A warning. A plea, an instruction she could not read. "Tell him," Xavier said quietly. Marcus looked between them, smile fading. "Tell me what?" Summer's mind raced. Xavier was lying. She had never signed anything. But he was lying for a reason, creating a narrative that served some purpose she could not yet see. "I signed them," she heard herself say. The words felt foreign, wrong. 3 days before the wedding. "That's impossible. You were under surveillance." "Was I?" Summer's voice grew stronger, finding the thread Xavier had given her. "Or did you just assume I would comply? Maybe I've been planning this longer than you think." Marcus's expression darkened. "If that's true, why proceed with the wedding at all?" "Because she needed witnesses," Xavier answered. "Needed everyone to see her abandoned. Needed the marriage to fail publicly so no one would question the filing when it appeared. It was a good lie, plausible, but Marcus was not buying it. "Show me the original documents," he demanded. "They're sealed with the court." "Convenient. Necessary." Xavier moved closer to Summer, not touching but near enough that she felt the shift in air. "But if you want to contest the filing, by all means. Tie yourself up in court for months. Meanwhile, your leverage continues to depreciate." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You're playing a dangerous game." "I'm playing the only game that matters. And I'm winning." The two men stared at each other, and Summer realized she was watching something she did not fully understand. A negotiation happening in subtext, in what was not being said. "The girl," Marcus said finally. "Where is she?" "Safe." "That wasn't the question." "It's the only answer you're getting." Marcus picked up his briefcase, movements deliberate. "This isn't over." "It is." Xavier's voice dropped lower, something final in it. "You lost the leverage, lost the contract, lost the bride. Take the loss, Marcus. Walk away." "And if I don't?" "Then you'll discover what happens when people threaten what belongs to me." Marcus's gaze shifted to Summer, lingering in a way that made her skin crawl. "She doesn't belong to you." "Yes," Xavier said quietly. "She does." The certainty in his voice should have angered her. Instead, it felt like a shield. Marcus left without another word. Silence filled the space he had occupied. Summer stood frozen, mind struggling to process everything that had just happened. "You lied," she said finally. "Yes." "About the signature. About me planning this." "Yes." "Why?" Xavier moved to the bar, pouring fresh drinks. "Because he needed to believe you had agency in this. Needed to think you were complicit, not coerced. That's the only way the filing holds up if he challenges it." "So you made me a co-conspirator in fraud. I made you look like someone who chose her own fate instead of having it chosen for her." He turned, extending a glass. "Which version do you prefer?" Summer did not take the drink. "The truth. The truth is you were sold by your father to pay gambling debts. The truth is you spent 5 years believing your education was a gift when it was actually an investment. The truth is every choice you thought you were making was already decided for you before you turned 18. Xavier set the glass on the table between them. I just gave you a different story, one where you have power. A false story. All stories are false until enough people believe them. His gaze held hers. The question is whether you can live with the one I created. Summer sank into the nearest chair, legs finally giving out. My father. How much did he owe? 200,000. Plus interest. That's insane. Why would Marcus? Because you were worth more than the debt. Xavier's voice was gentle now, but no less direct. The marriage wasn't about settling accounts. It was about acquisition. You would have been valuable to them. Leverage against other families. Collateral for future deals. A tool they could use indefinitely. The room swam. Summer pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to stop the spinning. I believed him, she whispered. My father. When he said the arrangement was temporary, that I just had to get through the wedding and everything would be fine, I believed him. He may have believed it too. Don't. She looked up, anger finally cutting through shock. Don't make excuses for him. He knew. They all knew, and they sold me anyway. Xavier said nothing, just watched her with that unreadable expression. What about Abigail? Summer asked. The photo, the syringe. A threat that no longer has teeth. Marcus needed you to react, needed you scared enough to comply, but now that the contract is resolved... Is it resolved? You lied about the signature. He'll figure that out. He'll try. Xavier moved closer, crouching in front of her chair. Summer, look at me. She did. Marcus Castellano is many things, but he's not stupid. He knows fighting this costs more than he'll gain. He knows I have resources he can't match, and most importantly, Xavier's voice dropped, he knows I've decided you're worth protecting. That alone makes you too expensive to pursue. Because you claimed me. Because I chose you. What's the difference? Xavier was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quieter, almost careful. Claiming is about ownership. Choosing is about value. I don't want to own you, Summer. I want you to decide that staying is better than leaving. But you won't let me leave. Have I stopped you? Summer stood abruptly. Let's find out. She moved past him, through the hallway, toward the front entrance. Her heart hammered, but she did not slow, did not look back. The front door opened easily. No locks, no resistance. The cool morning air hit her face as she stepped onto the driveway. Behind her, she heard nothing. No footsteps, no voices. Xavier was not following. She walked faster, dress shoes crunching on gravel, the gates visible ahead. Maybe he had been telling the truth. Maybe she could just walk out, get in a car, disappear, leave Abigail to Xavier's protection, and... Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, still walking. One message. From Xavier. Keep going. I won't stop you. Summer's pace slowed. Another message. The gates will open if you get close enough. She was 20 feet away now. 15. A third message. But you should know, the moment you leave this property, you're no longer under my protection. And Marcus is waiting to see if you run. Summer stopped. 10 feet from the gates. She turned, looking back at the house. Xavier stood in the doorway, backlit by the interior lights, posture relaxed, waiting. Her phone buzzed one final time. Your choice, Summer. It always was. She stared at the gates, at freedom, at the unknown beyond. Then she looked at the phone, at the last message, at the truth neither of them was saying. This was not about choice. This was about what she could survive without him. Summer turned and walked back toward the house, toward Xavier, toward the cage that had stopped feeling like captivity somewhere between the wedding steps and this moment. She climbed the steps, stopped in front of him. The gates, she said quietly. Xavier's expression did not change. What about them? Open them. Let me see. He pulled out his phone, pressed something. Behind her, she heard the mechanism engage, the gates swinging open. "They're open," Xavier said. Summer did not turn. "And if I walk through them? Then you walk through them. And after? After, you're on your own." She held his gaze. "Abigail? I'll still get her. That was never conditional." Summer's chest tightened. He was giving her everything she had asked for. Freedom. Choice. The sister she barely knew. Everything except certainty. "Close them," she whispered. Xavier's finger moved across the screen. Behind her, the gates swung shut. The sound of them locking was quiet. Final. Summer closed her eyes. "Why?" Xavier asked softly. She opened them again. "Because you were right. The truth is I can't survive out there. Not with Marcus looking. Not with Abigail in danger. Not alone. And in here? In here I'm trapped, but I'm alive." Xavier stepped aside, making room for her to enter. "That's not the only reason." "No," Summer admitted, brushing past him. "It's not." She did not elaborate, did not need to. The door closed behind them. Summer stood in the foyer, hearing the locks engage, understanding finally settling over her. This was the shape of her new life, this house, this man, this strange prison that kept her breathing. Summer. She turned. Xavier stood close now, closer than he had been before. "The gates will always open for you, every day, every hour. You can test them whenever you want. But they'll always close again. Only if you ask them to." Her breath caught. "Why does it matter? Why do you care if I choose this?" Xavier's hand lifted, stopping inches from her face, not touching, never quite touching. "Because," he said quietly, "ownership is easy. Anyone can take. But choosing to stay, choosing me over freedom, that's the only thing worth having." His hand dropped. "Get some rest," he said, stepping back. "We move on Abigail tonight." He walked away, disappearing into the house. Summer stood alone in the foyer, gates locked behind her, future uncertain ahead. She climbed the stairs to her room, locked the door, and finally let herself break. Summer did not sleep. She sat on the floor of her room, back against the locked door, watching dawn crawl across the walls. The gates were still closed. She could feel them somehow, heavy and present even from this distance. Her choice, her cage. At 7 a.m., someone knocked. Not Lucia's pattern. Heavier, more urgent. "Summer." Xavier's voice, controlled but different, tighter. "We need to move. Now." She unlocked the door. Xavier stood in the hallway, fully dressed, dark suit, darker expression. Behind him, 3 men she had not seen before, all wearing the same controlled stillness that marked them as security. "What happened?" she asked. "Marcus made his move." Xavier's gaze swept over her. "Get dressed. Something you can run in. 2 minutes." "Run from what?" "From the consequence of me keeping you." He turned, already moving. The security detail followed. Summer changed faster than she thought possible. Jeans, boots, jacket. When she emerged, Lucia was waiting with a small bag. "Food, water, basic supplies," the older woman said, pressing it into Summer's hands. "Stay close to him." "Where's Abigail?" "Already secure. Mr. Romano moved her an hour ago." Relief and fear crashed together. "Is she safe?" "As safe as anyone can be right now." Lucia's expression was unreadable. "Go. He's waiting." Summer found Xavier in the foyer. He was on the phone, voice low and precise. "I don't care about permits. Shut down the eastern access, all of it." He listened. "Then make it legal retroactively. I want every route into this property monitored and controlled within the hour." He ended the call, attention shifting to Summer. "You'll ride with me. Don't argue, don't ask questions until we're clear." "Clear of what?" Xavier's jaw tightened. "Of the 3 vehicles that have been circling the property perimeter since Marcus left this morning, and the surveillance team that set up position in the building across from my office downtown. And the legal filing that just went through claiming I kidnapped you and demanding police intervention for a wellness check. Summer's stomach dropped. They're coming here? They're trying to. He guided her toward the garage, hand on her lower back, pressure steady and directing. But I own half the police department, and the other half knows better than to get involved in family business. Still, Marcus is creating enough noise that someone will have to respond eventually. The garage held 6 vehicles. Xavier moved toward an unmarked sedan, black and anonymous. What about Lucia, the staff? Already relocated. This house is going dark for the next 48 hours. He opened the passenger door, waiting until she was inside before closing it with controlled precision. He slid into the driver's seat. The engine started, smooth and quiet. The garage door opened onto a driveway Summer had not seen before, rear exit, hidden by landscaping. They drove in silence through back roads she did not recognize. Xavier's phone buzzed constantly. He ignored it, eyes on the road, checking mirrors with systematic frequency. "Where are we going?" Summer asked finally. "Somewhere Marcus doesn't know about." Xavier turned onto a highway, merging into traffic. "A property I kept off all official records." "How many properties do you have? Enough that losing one doesn't matter." The casual way he said it made her realize the scale of what she had walked into. This was not just wealth. This was infrastructure, systems, power that ran deeper than she had understood. "You said Abigail is secure," Summer said. "Where?" "With people I trust. She's safe, Summer." "That's all you need to know right now." "I need to know more than that. She's 16. She's scared. She is alive because I moved her before Marcus knew I had her." Xavier's voice remained level. "If I tell you where she is and someone gets that information from you, her location becomes compromised. So no, you don't get to know. Not yet." Summer's hands clenched in her lap. "You don't trust me." "I trust you. I don't trust everyone else." The distinction landed like a punch. He was protecting Abigail from threats Summer did not even see. They drove for another 30 minutes. The city disappeared behind them, replaced by industrial areas, then open land. Xavier turned onto an unmarked road, gravel crunching under tires. The property appeared gradually. Not a house, a compound. Low buildings, security fencing. Cameras visible at regular intervals. It looked more like a facility than a home. Xavier pulled into an underground garage. The door closed behind them automatically. "Stay close," he said, getting out. They moved through corridors that felt military. Concrete floors, fluorescent lighting, no decoration. Xavier's hand stayed on her elbow, guiding her through turns she would not have known to take. He opened a door into a room that almost looked normal. Furniture, windows, though Summer suspected the glass was bulletproof, and a kitchenette. "You'll stay here until I confirm the threat level," Xavier said. "For how long?" "However long it takes." Summer moved to the window. The view showed empty land, fencing, nothing else. "This is a safe house." "Yes. You planned for this." "For me, needing to disappear." "I plan for everything." Xavier's phone buzzed again. This time he answered, stepping into the hallway. His voice dropped too low for her to hear words, but the tone was clear. Controlled anger. He returned 2 minutes later, expression unchanged, but something in his posture had shifted. "What?" Summer asked. "Marcus filed an emergency motion claiming you're being held against your will. Judge granted a temporary order for police to conduct a wellness check on my primary residence. But we're not there." "No, but Lucia was." Xavier's voice went cold. "They arrested her. Obstruction charges." Summer's chest tightened. She didn't do anything. She refused to let them search without a warrant. That was enough. He moved to the window, staring out at nothing. "They're using her to draw me out. To force me into a position where I have to choose between protecting you and protecting my people. So let me go. I'll tell them I'm fine, that you didn't kidnap me. And then what? Marcus gets another chance at you? The marriage contract gets contested in court where I can't control the outcome? Xavier turned back to her. No, you stay hidden. Lucia will be released once my lawyers make the charges disappear. How long will that take? Hours. Maybe less. But something in his tone suggested he was not certain. Summer sat on the edge of the couch. This is my fault. If I hadn't gotten in your car, then you'd be married to a man who would have killed you within 6 months. Xavier crouched in front of her, the familiar position that brought him to her level. This was always going to happen, Summer. The moment Marcus decided you were collateral, violence became inevitable. I just changed who that violence would be directed at. From me to you. Yes. Why would you do that? Xavier was quiet for a long moment. His gaze held hers, unflinching. Because I saw you on those steps, and I decided you were worth more than whatever Marcus was offering. Worth protecting. Worth... He stopped, started again. Worth the cost. Summer's breath caught. What cost? Before he could answer, his phone rang. Not a buzz, a specific ringtone that made his entire body tense. He answered without greeting. Talk. Whatever he heard made his expression go completely flat. When? A pause. How many? Another pause. Get everyone out. Now. I don't care about the evidence. Burn it if you have to. Just get them clear. He ended the call. What happened? Summer asked, though part of her did not want to know. Xavier stood, moving toward the door. Marcus just hit one of my secondary offices, claimed anonymous tip about illegal activity, brought federal agents, not local police. Can he do that? He just did. Xavier's jaw worked, and he only could if someone inside my organization gave him the information to make it credible. The implications settled like ice. You have a leak. Yes. Someone you trust. Someone I trusted. He pulled out his phone, making another call. Lock down all communications. I want every person who had access to the secondary office locations isolated and their movements tracked for the past 72 hours. He gave more instructions Summer did not fully follow, then ended the call. I need to go, he said. Where? To contain this before Marcus uses it as leverage to force a meeting. Xavier moved back to her, and for the first time since she had met him, she saw something that might have been worry cross his features. You stay here. Don't leave this room. Don't answer the door unless you hear my voice. Understand? Xavier. Understand? Yes. He nodded once, already turning toward the door. Wait. Summer stood. What if this is what he wants? What if he's trying to separate us so he can... He is. Xavier's voice was quiet, certain. But it doesn't matter what he wants. Only what I allow. And what do you allow? Xavier looked at her, really looked, and something shifted in his expression, something that made her pulse hammer. I allow you to be safe, he said quietly. Everything else is negotiable. He left. The door locked behind him, automatic and final. Summer stood alone in the safe house, surrounded by security she could not see, protected by a man who had just admitted she was worth a war. She moved to the window, watching the empty land, and tried not to think about Lucia in police custody, about Abigail hidden somewhere Summer was not allowed to know, about Xavier driving toward danger she had caused simply by existing. Her phone buzzed. Not Xavier's number, not one she recognized. She answered without thinking. Hello? Summer Logan. The voice was male, smooth, unfamiliar. Or should I say Summer Romano now? Her blood went cold. Who is this? Someone who thinks you should know what your protector is doing right now. A pause. He's not going to contain the leak. He's going to eliminate everyone who might be the leak. 5 people. One of them is innocent. The other 4 are guilty of different things, but only one betrayed him to Marcus. Summer's grip tightened on the phone. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself, Do you really know what Xavier Romano is capable of? What he's willing to do to protect what he owns? I'm not. You are. You just haven't admitted it yet. The voice softened, almost kind. Here's what's going to happen, Summer. Xavier is going to kill people today. Maybe the right people, maybe not. And you're going to have to decide if you can love a man whose hands are that bloody. The line went dead. Summer stood frozen, phone trembling in her hand. Outside, a car approached. Not Xavier's, different, unfamiliar. She moved back from the window, heart hammering. The car stopped. Someone got out. She could not see who from this angle. The door to her room opened. Not Xavier, a woman, early 40s, elegant suit, cold smile. "Hello, Summer," she said. "I'm Xavier's sister, and we need to talk about what happens when you become the reason they destroy my brother." Summer's breath stopped. Xavier had never mentioned a sister. The woman stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "You asked him what happens if you're the reason they destroy him," she continued, moving closer. "He probably said something noble, something about protection being worth any cost. How do you—" "Because I know my brother, and I know he's lying to you." She stopped 3 feet away. "So I'm going to tell you the truth. If you become the reason they destroy Xavier, he'll burn the entire city down to keep you, and then he'll hate you for making him that weak." Summer's chest tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," the woman said quietly, "you still have time to leave, to disappear before you destroy him, before he loves you enough to choose you over everything he's built." Summer. The woman's voice gentled. "What happens if I'm the reason they destroy you? That's what you asked him, but you should have asked a different question." "What question?" The woman's smile turned sad. "What happens when loving you becomes the thing that destroys him?" Summer opened her mouth. No words came. Behind them, footsteps in the hallway. Running. Urgent. The woman's expression shifted. "He's back early. That means something went wrong." The door burst open. Xavier stood in the threshold, gun drawn, pointed at his sister. "Get away from her," he said quietly. The woman raised her hands slowly. "Brother." "I said get away from her." She moved toward the door, not hurried but not casual. "You can't protect her from the truth forever, Xavier." "Watch me." The woman left. Xavier lowered the gun, but did not holster it. His gaze found Summer's, and she saw something in his expression that terrified her more than any weapon. Blood on his shirt cuff, just a few drops, almost invisible. "What did she tell you?" he asked. Summer's voice would not work. "Summer." Xavier moved closer. "What did she tell you?" She found her voice finally. "That loving you will destroy you." Xavier went completely still. "Is it true?" Summer whispered. "What happens if I'm the reason they come for you? If staying with me costs you everything?" Xavier's expression did not change, did not soften. "Then they come," he said quietly. "And I'll make sure they regret it." "But no," he cut her off. "You asked what happens. That's what happens. They come. I end them. We survive. That's the only outcome I allow." "What if you can't?" "I can. I will." Xavier holstered the gun finally. "Summer, look at me." She did. "I have spent 15 years building an empire no one can touch. I've eliminated threats before they became problems. I've maintained control through calculation and distance. And then I saw you on those steps, and I made a choice that compromised all of it." His voice dropped. "So yes, keeping you might cost me everything, and I've decided you're worth it." Summer's breath caught. "Xavier." "That's my answer," he said. "Now I need yours." "To what question?" His gaze held hers, unflinching, absolute. "Can you live with what I become to keep you safe?" Summer stared at Xavier, his question hanging between them like a blade. "Can you live with what I become to keep you safe?" The blood on his cuff had dried to rust. Evidence of something already done. Someone already gone. "I don't know," she whispered. Xavier's expression did not change, but something behind his eyes shifted. Not hurt. Resignation, maybe, or recognition of an answer he had expected. "That's honest." He moved to the door. "I'll have someone bring food. Stay here while Why didn't you tell me you had a sister?" He paused, hand on the frame. "Because she's been dead to me for 3 years." "She doesn't seem dead." "That's the problem." Xavier's voice went flat. "She chose Marcus's organization over mine, married his nephew, became an enemy, wearing my last name." Summer's chest tightened. "Then why did she come here?" "To plant doubt, to make you question whether staying with me is survival or suicide." He looked back at her. "Did it work?" Summer did not answer. Xavier nodded slowly like she had confirmed something. "Get some rest. We'll move you again tonight." He left before she could respond. The lock engaged automatically. Summer sat in the silence, her mind circling the same questions. How many people had Xavier killed to protect her? How many more would die before this ended? And the worst question, the one his sister had planted like a seed, what happened when he finally looked at her and saw the cost instead of the reason? Her phone buzzed, not Xavier's number, the same unknown number from before. She answered. "What do you want?" "To show you something." The smooth male voice from earlier. "Check your messages." The call ended. A photo appeared. Xavier, standing in what looked like a warehouse. 4 people kneeling in front of him, hands bound, heads bowed. Summer's stomach turned. Another photo. Closer. She recognized one of the faces, a woman who had been at the estate, part of Xavier's security detail. A third photo. Xavier's hand on the woman's shoulder. Almost gentle, the kind of touch that came before violence. The text that followed was simple. "He killed 3. Let 1 live. Guessed wrong. The leak is still active." Summer's hands shook. Another message. "He's eliminating his own people because of you. How many more before you stop him?" She dropped the phone like it had burned her. This was not protection. This was deterioration. Xavier unraveling piece by piece, making impossible choices, spilling blood that might be innocent, all because she had gotten into his car. Summer moved to the window. The compound stretched empty and cold. This was her future if she stayed, watching Xavier destroy himself and everyone around him, all in the name of keeping her safe. His sister's words echoed, "He'll burn the entire city down to keep you, and then he'll hate you for making him that weak." Summer made a decision. She found paper in the kitchenette, a pen, wrote carefully, hand steady despite her racing pulse. "Xavier, by the time you read this, I'll be gone, not running from you, running toward the only solution that ends this without more blood. I'm going to Marcus. I'll tell him I'll honor the marriage contract, sign whatever he wants, do whatever ends this war between you. Abigail gets released. Your people stop dying. You stop becoming something you'll hate. This isn't betrayal. It's the only choice that saves everyone. Don't come for me. Please, let me do this one thing. Let me choose. S." She left the note on the table where he would find it. Then she did something she had learned watching Xavier's security detail. She checked the door. The lock was electronic, controlled by Xavier's phone, but there was a manual override hidden behind a panel beside the frame. Summer found it, pressed it. The lock disengaged with a soft click. She stepped into the corridor, heart hammering. No alarms, no footsteps. Xavier had said the compound was minimal staff. He had not wanted witnesses to whatever he was planning. Summer moved quickly, following the route they had taken from the garage. Left, right, downstairs. The building remained silent, empty. The garage door was unlocked, 3 vehicles inside. She chose the smallest, plainest, found keys in the visor. Security measure or carelessness, she did not care. The engine started quietly. The garage door opened with a button press. Summer drove out into evening air, compound shrinking in the rearview mirror. She waited for alarms, for calls, for Xavier's voice demanding she stop. Nothing came. 10 minutes. 20. The road stretched empty ahead. Summer pulled over, hands shaking too badly to drive safely. She retrieved the phone Xavier had given her, found Marcus's contact information in a file Xavier had left accessible. Intentionally, she realized. He had wanted her to be able to reach Marcus if needed. She typed carefully, "This is Summer Logan. I want to negotiate. Alone. No Xavier. Just me." The response came within seconds, finally showing some sense. "Where are you?" She gave her location. 20 minutes. Come alone. She would not be alone. Marcus would bring people, but she did not have a choice. Summer sat in the car, watching darkness gather, and wondered if this was courage or surrender. If Xavier would understand, or if she had just destroyed the only thing he had asked of her. Trust. Headlights appeared in the distance. She got out of the car, standing in the road, waiting. The vehicle approached slowly. Black SUV, tinted windows. It stopped 20 feet away. Marcus stepped out. Alone, as promised. But Summer saw movement in the vehicle, others waiting. "Summer?" Marcus's voice carried across the distance. "This is unexpected." "I'll honor the contract," she said. "Sign it. Marry whoever you want. Whatever ends this." Marcus tilted his head, studying her. "And Xavier? He's agreed to this?" "Xavier doesn't know." "Ah." Marcus smiled. "Even more interesting. You're offering yourself to save him. I'm offering myself to stop innocent people from dying." "Very noble." Marcus moved closer. "And what makes you think I'll accept? That I won't just take you and continue pressuring Xavier anyway?" Summer's throat tightened. She had not considered that. "Because you're a businessman. You wanted me for the contract, for the leverage. I'm giving you both, willingly. That's worth more than a war with Xavier." "Is it?" Marcus stopped 5 feet away. "Or is it worth more to destroy him completely? To take from him the one thing he's decided matters?" Summer's pulse hammered. "Then you never wanted peace." "I wanted submission." "There's a difference." Marcus pulled out his phone. "But you're right about one thing. You willing is worth more than you resistant." He made a call, spoke too quietly for Summer to hear. Behind him, the SUV doors opened. 3 men emerged, large, professional. One carried zip ties. Summer's breath caught. "You said alone." "I said come alone. I never promised anything about me." Marcus gestured to his men. "Take her. Secure location. And someone call Romano. Tell him we have what's his. If he wants her back, he knows what it will cost." Summer ran. Not toward her car. They would catch her. Into the trees lining the road. Dark, unfamiliar. But movement was better than capture. Footsteps behind her, heavy, fast. She did not get far. An arm caught her around the waist, lifting her off her feet. She fought, kicking, clawing. But the grip was iron. "Stop," a voice said in her ear. Not unkind, matter of fact. "You'll hurt yourself." Summer went limp, conserving energy. The man carried her back to the road like she weighed nothing. Marcus watched, expression unreadable. "Put her in the vehicle." "No!" Summer's voice cracked. "I came willingly. I'm cooperating. You don't need to." "You ran. That's not cooperation." Marcus nodded to his men. "Secure her. We move now before Romano realizes what's happened." They zip-tied her wrists. Not tight enough to cut circulation, but enough to make escape impossible. Pushed her into the SUV, 1 man on either side, the third driving. Marcus climbed into the passenger seat, making another call. "We have her. Yes. No, she came to us. Wants to trade herself for peace." He listened, then laughed. "I know. Touching. No. Don't call Romano yet. Let him find the note. Let him panic. That's when people make mistakes." The SUV moved. Summer sat between her guards, hands bound, watching trees blur past the window. She had made a choice, tried to save Xavier from himself, and instead, she had given Marcus exactly what he wanted: leverage. The drive lasted 30 minutes. No one spoke. Summer's mind raced through scenarios, each worse than the last. What would Marcus do with her now? Would he really force the marriage? Or had that always been a cover for something worse? The SUV stopped. A building, abandoned factory maybe, isolated, no neighbors, no witnesses. They pulled her from the vehicle, walked her inside, down corridors that smelled of rust and mold, into a room that held only a chair and a table. They did not tie her to the chair. Just pushed her into it and left. Marcus remained, standing by the door. "Your boyfriend will be here soon. He's predictable that way." "He won't come." "Of course he will. You're his weakness now. Men like Xavier, men who've never allowed themselves to care, when they finally do, they become reckless." Marcus checked his watch. "I give him 20 minutes before he tears through this city looking for you." "I left him a note. Told him not to come." "Which guarantees he will?" Marcus smiled. "You really don't understand him yet, do you? Xavier Romano doesn't let anyone take what's his. Ever. You asking him not to come makes it worse." Summer's chest tightened. This was supposed to end it. This was supposed to end him, and you just gave me the perfect weapon. Footsteps outside, multiple, running. Marcus's expression shifted. That was fast. The door exploded inward, not Xavier's men, different uniforms, badges, police. "Marcus Castellano, you're under arrest for kidnapping, extortion, and racketeering." The lead officer moved forward with handcuffs. "You have the right—" "This is a mistake," Marcus said calmly. "I'm conducting legitimate business. Save it for the lawyers." They cuffed him, read his rights, let him out. One officer approached Summer, producing a knife to cut the zip ties. "Ma'am, are you all right? We received a tip about your location." Summer rubbed her wrists, mind struggling to process. A tip from who? Anonymous, but detailed. The officer helped her stand. "We'll need your statement, and we'll need to contact whoever reported you missing." "That won't be necessary." The voice came from the doorway. Xavier stood there, suit immaculate, expression utterly controlled, but his eyes were wrong, too dark, too flat. "Mr. Romano," the officer said, "we'll need to speak with you as well." "Of course, after I speak with Summer, privately." It was not a request. The officers exchanged glances. One nodded. 5 minutes. We'll be right outside." They left. Xavier stepped inside, closed the door. The silence was deafening. Summer stood frozen, watching him. He had not moved from the doorway, had not approached, just stood there, looking at her like she was something he was trying to recognize. "You left," he said finally, quietly. "I had to." "You offered yourself to him. To end this. You ran from me. To save you." Xavier's jaw tightened. "You think I needed saving? You were killing your own people, Xavier, innocent people, because of me. Not innocent. Incompetent. There's a difference." His voice was too calm, too controlled, and not because of you, because they failed. That's not— You don't get to decide that. Xavier finally moved, crossing the room in 3 strides. "You don't get to offer yourself as sacrifice without asking me. You don't get to trade your safety for mine. That's not how this works." "Then how does it work?" Summer's voice rose. "You control everything, decide everything. I'm just supposed to sit in whatever cage you build and watch people die?" "Yes." The word was absolute. "That's exactly what you're supposed to do, because you staying safe is the only thing that matters." "What about you staying safe?" "I don't matter." "Yes, you do." Xavier went completely still. Summer's breath caught. The words had escaped before she could stop them. True and terrible, and too late to take back. Say that again, Xavier said quietly. Xavier, say it. You matter to me. Her voice broke. You matter, and I can't watch you destroy yourself, and I thought if I left, if I gave Marcus what he wanted— You thought wrong. Xavier's hands were on her shoulders now, grip firm but not painful. Summer, look at me. She did. I tore through half this city in 40 minutes, he said, voice low and deliberate. Called in every favor, activated every asset, had my lawyers draft federal charges and had them filed before Marcus could move you twice. His grip tightened slightly. I burned bridges I can't rebuild, made enemies I'll spend years eliminating, exposed operations that should have stayed hidden, all of it. For you. Summer's eyes burned. Why? Because you're mine. Simple. Final. And I don't lose what's mine. But No. Xavier's expression finally cracked, something raw and terrible showing through. You don't get to leave. You don't get to sacrifice yourself. You don't get to choose martyrdom without understanding what it costs me. His forehead dropped to hers, the first truly uncontrolled gesture she had seen from him. You want to save me? Then stay. Be the reason I don't burn everything down. Be the thing worth protecting instead of the loss worth avenging. Summer's breath shuddered. I thought I was helping. You were killing me. The words landed like a physical blow. Outside, an officer knocked. Mr. Romano, we need those statements. Xavier stepped back, control sliding into place like a mask. Of course. He guided Summer toward the door, hand on her lower back. They gave statements. Watched Marcus get loaded into a police vehicle, answered questions Summer barely registered. 2 hours later, they were back in Xavier's car, driving. Not toward the compound, somewhere else. Where are we going? Summer asked. Home. Which home? The only one that matters now. Xavier's voice was quiet, exhausted. Mine. They drove in silence. Summer watched his profile, seeing things she had not allowed herself to see before. The tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes, the way his hands gripped the wheel too hard. She had tried to save him. She had almost destroyed him. Xavier, don't. His voice was rough. Not yet. I can't. He stopped, started again. Just let me get you home. Let me see you safe. Then we'll talk. Summer nodded, throat too tight for words. They pulled into a driveway. A house she had not seen before, smaller than the estate, more private, hidden by trees and gates that opened without prompting. Xavier parked, got out, came around to her door, opened it, extended his hand. Summer took it. They walked inside together. The house was dark, quiet. Xavier turned on lights as they moved through rooms that felt lived in, personal. This was his space, his actual home. He had brought her here. In the living room, Xavier finally stopped, turned to face her. I need you to understand something, he said. What? When I couldn't find you, when I saw that note, his voice fractured. I was going to burn it all down, Summer. Everything. Everyone. Every rule I'd followed, every line I hadn't crossed, none of it mattered without you. Summer's chest tightened. Xavier? So no, he continued, voice strengthening. You don't get to leave to save me, because without you, there's nothing worth saving. The weight of his words settled over her. This was not possession anymore. This was something more dangerous. This was need. Summer reached for him, and Xavier caught her hand, pulling her closer. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't apologize. Just promise me. His other hand came up, cupping her face. Promise you won't run again. I promise. Even when it's hard. Even when you think leaving protects me. Even then. Xavier's eyes closed. Relief and exhaustion warring across his features. When he opened them again, something had shifted. There's something else you need to know, he said. Summer's pulse quickened. What? Xavier's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again, insistent. He pulled it out, checked the screen. His expression went flat. What? Summer asked. Xavier showed her the phone. A message. From an unknown number. A photo attached. Summer looked. Her blood went cold. The photo showed Abigail, but not safe, not hidden, in a hospital bed, unconscious, tubes and wires, monitors beeping. The message below read, "She tried to run, fell downstairs. Such a tragedy. Doctors say she might wake up, might not. Depends on how cooperative her sister wants to be." Summer's legs gave out. Xavier caught her, holding her upright. "When?" she whispered. 2 hours ago, while you were being taken." Xavier's voice was hollow. "They waited until I was distracted, until my people were focused on finding you. Is she alive? Critical condition, but alive." Summer's vision blurred. "This is my fault. I left and they—" "No." Xavier's grip tightened. "This is Marcus's move. His backup plan. But he's in police custody. Marcus Castellano is. His organization isn't." Xavier's jaw worked. "And now they have something I can't take back with lawyers or police raids." "What?" Xavier looked at her, and in his eyes she saw something that terrified her. Calculation. "They have a girl in a hospital who might die," he said quietly. "And they're betting I'll trade you to save her." Summer's breath stopped. "Will you?" she whispered. Xavier's expression did not change, and that was answer enough. Xavier's silence lasted 3 seconds. Then he made a call. "I want every member of the Castellano organization identified and located within the hour." His voice was clinical, detached. "Start with anyone who had access to the girl's location, work outward from there." Summer watched his face. No anger, no fear. Just calculation. He continued, "I don't care about warrants or legal exposure. This ends tonight." He ended the call. "You can't," Summer whispered. Xavier looked at her. "Can't what? You can't just—" She stopped, unable to finish, unable to say the words that would make it real. "Kill them?" Xavier's expression did not change. "Yes, I can, and I will. There are other ways, legal ways. You just had Marcus arrested. Marcus is one man. His organization is 30. And one of them pushed your sister down a flight of stairs." Xavier moved to the window, looking out at nothing. "So yes, Summer, I'm going to kill them, all of them, until I find the one responsible and everyone who knew and did nothing." Summer's chest tightened. "That's not justice. That's massacre." "No." Xavier turned back to her. "That's war. And war is the only language they understand. You're not at war. I've been at war since the moment I took you from those steps." His voice was quiet, absolute. "The only difference is now I'm finishing it." Summer stood, legs shaking. "And what about Abigail? While you're busy destroying them, who's protecting her?" "I have 6 men at that hospital. 3 inside her room, 3 on the floor, another team on the roof. No one gets near her without going through them first." "That's not enough. They won't get another chance." Xavier's phone buzzed. He checked it. "First location confirmed, warehouse on the east side. 4 targets." Summer's blood ran cold. "You're going now." "Yes." "Let me come with you." "No." "She's my sister." "Which is exactly why you stay here." Xavier moved toward her. And for the first time since they had arrived, she saw something beneath his control. Something raw. "Summer, what I'm about to do, what I have to do, you can't see that. You can't be part of it." "Why not?" "Because." His hand lifted, stopping just short of her face. "Because if you watch me become that, you'll never look at me the same way again." "I already know what you are." "No." Xavier's voice dropped. "You know what I've told you, what you've guessed, but you haven't seen it. And I need—" He stopped, started again. I need you to still be able to look at me tomorrow." The admission landed like a physical blow. Summer reached up, catching his hand, pressing it against her cheek. "Then don't go. Let the police handle it. They can't." Xavier's fingers curled against her skin. "The law moves too slowly, has too many rules. By the time they build a case, Abigail could be dead, or worse, they could move her. Use her again. I won't allow that." "So you'll kill for her?" "I'll kill for you." His gaze held hers. "She matters because she matters to you. But make no mistake, Summer, this isn't about her. It's about anyone who thinks they can threaten what's mine and walk away." Summer's breath caught. "This is what your sister meant. This is you burning everything down." "Yes. And after? When they're all dead? When there's no one left to threaten us?" Xavier's expression shifted, something almost vulnerable crossing his features. "Then we find out if you can still want me with blood on my hands." He pulled away, moving toward the door. "Wait." Summer followed. "You said you wouldn't trade me, but you're risking everything anyway. Risking exposure. Legal consequences, your entire organization. I'm risking nothing I'm not willing to lose. What about me? What if I can't—" Her voice broke. "What if I can't accept this? Can't live with knowing what you did tonight?" Xavier stopped at the threshold. When he looked back, his eyes were dark, certain, and utterly without mercy. "Then I'll have kept you alive long enough to hate me," he said quietly. "And that's a cost I'm willing to pay." He left. The door locked behind him. Summer stood frozen, his words echoing. He would rather have her alive and hating him than dead and mourned. That was the shape of his obsession. Not romance, not even protection anymore. Possession absolute. She moved through the house, restless, found herself in his study, papers on the desk, business documents, property deeds, photographs of people she did not recognize with notes in Xavier's precise handwriting. Targets, all of them. Summer's phone buzzed, a message from a number she did recognize now, one of Xavier's security team. Hospital update, girl stable, no changes, 3 attempts at entry, all prevented, 0 casualties our side. Relief and horror warred in her chest. They were already trying to get to Abigail, and Xavier's people were stopping them. With what methods, she did not want to know. Another message came. Different number. Unknown. "You should leave while you can. He's about to do something you can't unsee. Get out, I can help." Summer stared at the message. Who was this? Another enemy? Someone trying to help? Or a test from Xavier himself to see if she would run again? She typed back, "Who is this?" The response was immediate. Someone who knows what Romano becomes when he loves something. Run, Summer, before you become the reason he loses his humanity completely. Her finger hovered over the delete button. Then she set the phone down. Whoever this was, enemy or friend, they were right about one thing. Xavier was about to cross a line he could not uncross, become something he could not unbecome, and she was the reason. But running would not stop him, would not save him. She had already tried that, and it had nearly destroyed them both. Summer picked up her phone again, opened a message to Xavier. "Come back safe, I'll be waiting." She hit send before she could reconsider. The response came 10 minutes later. "I always come back. That's what I do." Summer sat in his study, surrounded by evidence of violence planned and executed, and made peace with what she had chosen. Not the man Xavier pretended to be, not the protector or the savior, the monster who killed for her, the obsessive who would burn cities to keep her, the man who had looked at her with blood on his cuffs and asked if she could live with what he became. She still did not know the answer, but she was going to stay long enough to find out. Hours passed. Summer dozed in Xavier's chair, surrounded by the smell of his cologne and the weight of his world. Her phone rang at 3 a.m., not Xavier, his security chief. "Ms. Logan, we're moving your sister. There's been a complication." Summer's heart stopped. What kind of complication? The kind that requires immediate relocation. Background noise, urgent voices, equipment beeping. Mr. Romano's orders. We're taking her to a private facility. More secure. Is she okay? A pause. She's alive. That's what matters right now. The call ended. Summer tried Xavier's number. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. Panic clawed at her chest. Something had gone wrong. Xavier was unreachable. Abigail was being moved. The front door opened. Summer ran toward it, relief flooding through her. Xavier stood in the entryway, suit jacket gone, shirt sleeves rolled up, and on his hands, his forearms, blood. Not drops this time, evidence of something visceral and close. "Tell me you're okay," Summer whispered. Xavier's gaze found hers. "I'm fine. The blood isn't mine." He moved past her, heading for what she assumed was a bathroom. "Your sister's being moved to a facility I control. She'll be safe there." "What happened? Why did you—" Summer followed him. "Xavier, talk to me." He stopped at a sink, turned on the water, began washing his hands with methodical precision. "We found the ones responsible for Abigail, 3 men. They're not a problem anymore." Summer watched blood swirl down the drain. "And the rest of the organization?" "Being handled as we speak." Xavier's voice was flat, empty. "By morning, the Castellano network will cease to exist. You're dismantling an entire crime family in one night." "Yes. People will notice. Police, FBI, other families. Let them." Xavier dried his hands, finally meeting her eyes. "I'm done being subtle, done playing by rules that don't protect what matters. They threatened you, hurt your sister. That's a debt that only ends one way." Summer's throat tightened. With blood. With certainty. He moved closer, and she saw exhaustion beneath his control. "No one threatens what's mine, ever. That's the message I'm sending tonight, in language everyone will understand. You're making yourself a target. I've always been a target. I'm just making it clear what happens to people who act on it." Summer reached for him before she could stop herself. Her hand found his chest, feeling his heartbeat, steady, controlled, alive. "You scared me. When you wouldn't answer your phone—" "I know." Xavier's hand covered hers. "I'm sorry. Things moved faster than expected." "Faster how?" He hesitated. Then, "They moved on your sister while I was hitting their warehouse. Coordinated attack. If my people hadn't been there—" His jaw tightened. "It was close, Summer. Too close." "But she's okay. For now." Xavier's gaze held hers. "Which brings me to something we need to discuss." Summer's pulse quickened. "What?" Xavier stepped back, putting distance between them. "This doesn't end, Summer. Not really. I can eliminate the Castellano organization, but there will be others. People who see you as weakness, as leverage, as something they can use against me." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying you have a choice to make." Xavier's voice was quiet, final. "You can stay. Accept what that means. The security, the restrictions, the violence that comes with being mine. Accept me, knowing what I'm capable of, what I've done, what I'll do again to keep you safe." Summer's breath caught. "Or?" Xavier's expression did not change, did not soften. "Or you leave, tonight. I'll give you money, new identity, protection, until you're settled somewhere I can't find you. You disappear completely. Live a normal life without me in it." The offer hung between them like a blade. "That's the choice?" Summer whispered. "Stay and belong to you or leave forever?" "Yes. Those are the only options? They're the only honest ones." Xavier moved to the window, looking out at the darkness. "I can't do this halfway, Summer. Can't protect you partially. Can't love you carefully. It's everything or nothing, and you need to decide which you can survive." Summer's mind raced. Everything he was offering, safety, permanence, belonging, came with a cost she was only beginning to understand. But leaving meant abandoning Abigail, meant running from the only person who had ever chosen her completely, violently, obsessively. "How long do I have to decide?" she asked. Xavier's shoulders tensed. "Until sunrise. That's 4 hours." "I know." He turned back to her, and in his eyes she saw something that might have been fear. "But I need an answer, Summer, because I can't keep doing this. Can't keep wondering if you're going to run, if you're going to leave, if one day I'll wake up and you'll be gone. I need to know. Stay or go, mine or free, choose." Summer stared at him, at the man who had killed for her, bled for her, dismantled an empire for her. The man who was asking her to choose him, knowing exactly what that meant. "And if I choose to stay?" she asked quietly. Xavier's expression shifted. "Then you're mine. Completely. No more running. No more sacrificing yourself. No more questioning whether you belong with me." "And if I choose to leave?" His voice dropped. "Then I let you go. And I never come for you again." The finality in his tone made her chest ache. This was it. The moment everything crystallized, stay and accept the monster, or leave and lose the only person who had ever made her feel chosen. Summer opened her mouth to answer. Her phone rang. Both of them froze. Summer looked at the screen. Hospital. The number for Abigail's private facility. She answered. "Hello? Ms. Logan." A voice she did not recognize. Clinical, professional. "You need to come to the hospital now." "What's wrong? Is Abigail—" "Your sister is awake, and she's asking for you. But there's something else you need to know." Summer's grip tightened on the phone. "What?" The voice on the other end paused, then carefully. "She remembers what happened, who pushed her, and she says she knows you. Says the person who hurt her claimed they were doing it to save you." Summer's blood went cold. She looked at Xavier, whose expression had gone completely flat. "Who?" Summer whispered into the phone. "Who did she say it was?" The answer made the room tilt. "She said it was Xavier Romano's sister." Xavier's sister. The words hung in the air like smoke, choking and inescapable. Xavier's expression went completely blank. Not surprised, not angry, just empty, like something inside him had calcified into stone. "Get in the car," he said quietly. Summer did not argue. They drove in silence. The city was dark, empty at this hour. Xavier's hands were steady on the wheel, but Summer saw the tension in his jaw, the way his knuckles had gone white. "You knew," she said finally. "You knew it was her?" "I suspected." His voice was flat. The leak, the timing, the way information kept reaching Marcus, it all pointed to someone inside, someone who knew my movements, my properties, my weaknesses. "Your sister." "My former sister." Xavier's correction was surgical. "She stopped being family the day she chose them over me." Summer watched his profile. "But you didn't tell me." "What would I have said? That the woman who came to warn you about me was actually the one putting you in danger? That family is just another word for potential betrayal?" His grip tightened on the wheel. "You wouldn't have believed me, not then." He was right. She would have thought it was manipulation, another way to control her perception. "What are you going to do?" Summer asked. Xavier's silence was answer enough. They arrived at the private facility within 20 minutes. Xavier's security detail was visible now, no longer hiding, just present. A statement, a warning. Inside, a doctor met them, young, nervous, clearly aware of who Xavier was. "The girl is stable," the doctor said. "Awake, lucid. She's been asking for her sister." "And my sister?" Xavier's voice was cold. "Where is she?" The doctor paled. "Security detained her when she tried to enter the room. She's being held in the administrative wing." Xavier nodded once. "Keep her there, no calls, no visitors. I'll deal with her after I've seen the girl." They moved through sterile corridors to Abigail's room. Xavier's hand found Summer's lower back, familiar pressure, grounding. The door opened. Abigail lay in the hospital bed, small and pale against white sheets. Her left arm was in a cast, bruises darkening her jaw. But her eyes, green like Summer's, were open and alert. She looked at Summer, then at Xavier, and something that might have been recognition crossed her features. "You're her," Abigail said quietly, "the one they kept talking about." Summer moved to the bedside. "I'm Summer, your half-sister." "I know." Abigail's gaze did not leave Xavier. "And you're the one they wanted to hurt by hurting me." Xavier said nothing. "The woman who pushed me," Abigail continued, voice steady despite the tremor beneath it. "She said it was the only way to save you. Said her brother was making a mistake, that you'd destroy him." "She was wrong," Summer said. "Was she?" Abigail looked at her finally. "Because it seems like everyone around you ends up in danger. Or dead." The words landed like a physical blow. Summer had no answer, because Abigail was not wrong. People had died, been arrested, disappeared, all because Summer had gotten into Xavier's car. "You're right," Xavier said, speaking for the first time. "Your sister is dangerous, not because of what she does, but because of what people think they can do to her. That's why she's under my protection now. And that's why you'll be too, until this is resolved." Abigail's jaw set. "I don't want protection. I want to go home." "Where's home?" Xavier asked quietly. "With a father who sold one daughter to pay debts and let another be used as leverage? That home?" Abigail flinched. Summer's chest tightened. "Xavier, she deserves truth, not comfort." Xavier moved closer to the bed. "Your father knew the risks, knew what world he was playing in. He gambled anyway, and you and Summer paid for it. So no, you don't get to go home. Because home is where this started." "Then where do I go?" Xavier glanced at Summer. Something passed between them, unspoken and immediate. "Somewhere safe," Summer said. "Somewhere they can't find you. Xavier will arrange it." "And what about you?" Abigail asked. "Where will you be?" Summer opened her mouth, closed it. The question she had not answered, stay or leave, suddenly had a witness. "She'll be where she chooses," Xavier said, voice careful and controlled. "That's not decided yet." Abigail looked between them, reading what neither was saying. "You don't want to stay with him, but you think you have to." "It's more complicated than that," Summer said. "Is it?" Abigail's voice was soft but cutting. "Because from where I'm lying it looks pretty simple. You stay, people die. You leave, people die. Either way, someone pays. The only question is whether you're willing to watch it happen." The brutal honesty of 16 years old, with nothing left to lose. Xavier's phone buzzed. He checked it, expression darkening. "They're moving my sister to a more secure location. I need to go." "No." Summer's voice was quiet but absolute. "Not yet. Not until—" She stopped, understanding finally crystallizing. "She needs to see me first." Xavier went still. "Summer, she did this because of me, to prove I was dangerous to you, to make me leave." Summer met his gaze. "So she needs to hear from me that it didn't work. It's not safe. I'll be with you, your security. That's safe enough." Summer moved toward the door. "And I need to see her, need to understand why someone who shares your blood would do this." Xavier was silent for a long moment. Then, 5 minutes. "That's all." They left Abigail with a security detail and moved through the facility. Xavier's hand never left Summer's back, constant pressure, silent reminder of possession and protection intertwined. His sister was being held in a small office, 2 guards outside. Inside, she sat in a chair, hands zip-tied in front of her, looking almost bored, until she saw Summer. Then something flickered across her face. Satisfaction. Or maybe recognition of inevitability. "You came," she said. "I wondered if you would." "Why?" Summer asked simply. "Why hurt a child to prove a point?" "Because my brother needed to see what you cost." Xavier's sister, Summer still did not know her name, leaned forward. "Every choice he's made since you has been wrong, reckless, emotional. He's burning everything we built for a woman he met days ago." "That was his choice." "No, it was yours." The sister's voice hardened. "You got in his car. You stayed in his house. You made him think you were worth protecting. But you're not. You're just another weakness waiting to destroy him." Xavier moved, but Summer stepped forward first, putting herself between them. "You're wrong," Summer said quietly. "I'm not his weakness. I'm his choice. And the difference is that weaknesses get exploited. Choices get defended." The sister laughed, bitter and cold. "You think this is defense? Look around you. Police investigations, rival families moving against him, people dead or disappeared. This is collapse, and you're the reason." "No," Xavier's voice cut through. "You are. You leaked information. You coordinated with Marcus. You pushed a child downstairs. That's not protection, sister. That's betrayal. I was trying to save you by destroying everything I chose to build." Xavier crouched in front of her, bringing himself to her level. "You were my family once, but family doesn't get to choose my life for me, doesn't get to decide what I'm allowed to want. You tried to take something that's mine. There are consequences for that." His sister's composure cracked. "What are you going to do?" Xavier stood. "You'll be relocated, somewhere distant. Comfortable but controlled. You'll have resources but no freedom, and you'll spend every day knowing you're alive because I allow it, not because you deserve it." "Xavier." "That's the mercy you get for being blood. Anyone else would be dead." He turned toward the door. "Get her ready for transport." They left her there, still calling his name, voice breaking on something that might have been regret. In the hallway, Xavier stopped. His hand found the wall, bracing himself. For the first time since Summer had met him, he looked uncertain. "Tired. Are you okay?" she asked quietly. "No." His honesty was sharp, painful. "But I will be." Summer moved closer, eliminating the careful distance. "Your family chose themselves over loyalty. That makes them strangers." Xavier looked at her. "But you haven't answered my question. Stay or leave. Choose, Summer." The moment had arrived. Dawn was coming. She could see it through the windows, gray light creeping across the sky. Summer thought about everything she had seen. The blood, the violence, the obsessive control. The way Xavier looked at her like she was the only thing keeping him human. She thought about running, about freedom, about a life without guards and threats and men who killed casually. Then she thought about being seen, being chosen, being protected so absolutely that a man would dismantle his own family to keep her safe. "I need something from you first," Summer said. Xavier's expression was careful. "What? Truth? No evasions, no protection?" She held his gaze. "Do you love me?" The question hung between them. Xavier was silent for so long Summer thought he would not answer. Then, "I don't know if I'm capable of love the way other people mean it. What I feel is—" He stopped, started again. "Possession, obsession, need so absolute that your absence feels like suffocation. I look at you and I see something I won't survive losing." "Is that love? Or is it something darker? I don't know." Summer's breath caught at the brutal honesty. "But what I do know," Xavier continued, voice dropping lower, "is that I will protect you until I stop breathing. I will kill anyone who threatens you. I will burn cities and destroy families and cross every line I swore I wouldn't cross, and I won't apologize for it. That's what I offer. Take it or leave it, but that's the truth." Summer stepped closer, eliminating the last space between them. "And if I stay, What does that make me? Mine. The word was absolute. Completely. No more questions about belonging, no more wondering if you're allowed to want this. You stay. You're choosing me. Choosing this life. Choosing everything that comes with it. Summer's hand found his chest, feeling his heartbeat under her palm. Steady, strong. Inevitable. I'm not choosing captivity, she said quietly. Xavier's jaw tightened. Then, I'm choosing partnership. On my terms. Summer's voice strengthened. I stay. I accept your protection. I accept what you are. But I get a voice. I get agency. I get to be part of decisions that affect my life. Not just someone you keep safe. Someone you trust. Can you give me that? Xavier was silent, calculating, weighing. Then his hand covered hers, pressing it harder against his chest. Yes, he said, on one condition. What? You never run from me again. Never offer yourself to my enemies. Never try to save me by leaving. His eyes held hers. I can give you agency. But I need you to promise you'll stay. That's non-negotiable. Summer considered. This was the bargain. Freedom within the cage, choice within possession. I promise, she said, no more running. Xavier's expression shifted, not relief, something deeper, like a man who had been holding his breath for days and could finally exhale. He kissed her, not gentle, not careful, hard and claiming and absolute, a seal on a bargain neither could break now. When he pulled back, his voice was rough. We should go. Dawn's here, and I need to finish what I started with the Castellano organization. We finish it, Summer corrected. Together. Xavier's lips curved, almost a smile. Together. They walked out of the hospital as the sun rose, casting long shadows across empty streets. Xavier's hand in hers, grip firm and possessive. Summer's choice made, irrevocable and absolute. Behind them, Abigail was being moved to a safe house Xavier controlled. His sister was being relocated somewhere she could never hurt anyone again. The Castellano organization was being systematically dismantled, and Summer Logan, no longer a bride for sale, no longer collateral, walked beside the man who had chosen her completely, violently, obsessively. 3 months later, Summer stood in Xavier's actual home. Not a safe house, not a compound, but the place he lived when he was not being the monster. The ring on her finger was simple. White gold, no diamond. They had married privately. No witnesses except the lawyer and Lucia. No white dress, no veil. Just two people choosing inevitable possession and calling it something else. Summer watched the city through floor-to-ceiling windows, Xavier's arms around her waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. Do you regret it? He asked quietly. Which part? Staying, choosing this. Summer was silent, feeling the weight of the ring, the warmth of his body, the security of guards she could not see but knew were there. No, she said finally. But ask me again in a year. Xavier's chest moved against her back, a silent laugh. I'll ask you every year, until you stop answering. What if I never stop? Then I'll keep asking. His arms tightened. That's how this works now. Forever questions. Forever choosing. Summer turned in his arms, looking up at him. I'm not your prisoner. No. Xavier's voice was soft, certain. You're my choice, and I'm yours. That's more binding than any cage. Summer kissed him, slow and deliberate. A confirmation of bargains made and promises kept. When she pulled back, Xavier was watching her with that expression she recognized now. Not love, exactly. Something darker, hungrier, more absolute. Obsession that had found its object and would never let go. I need to tell you something, Summer said. Xavier went still. What? Abigail wants to visit. She's settled, safe, but she wants to see me. Then she'll visit, under supervision. Xavier, non-negotiable. But his tone was gentle. She's safe because she's yours. But safety comes with conditions. You know that now. Summer did know, had learned it thoroughly over the past months. Safety in Xavier's world was absolute, but never free. Okay, she agreed. Xavier's expression softened fractionally. Okay. They stood there, holding each other, as the sun set over a city that had learned what happened when someone threatened what belonged to Xavier Romano. Summer had been rescued from steps outside a wedding she did not want. But she had not been saved. She had been chosen, and in Xavier Romano's world, what was chosen was kept, protected, possessed, forever. And Summer Logan, who had spent 27 years belonging to people who did not see her, had finally found someone who would never look away, even if his gaze was dark, obsessive, and utterly without mercy. She had chosen the monster, and the monster had chosen her back. That was the only truth that mattered now.